short citizens' comments. Katie Merritt. Betty Merritt. Tom White. Would anyone like to speak for Tom White from Nacarado, folks?
My name is Adam Sager. I'm with Dale & Associates. Tom White is unable to make it tonight. He had a prior engagement. He had asked us to speak on his behalf in reference to the Nacarado project. You've heard Roy Dale speak and Mr. Nacarado, and we appreciate everything that Laverne does, and we appreciate the fact that they want to take the lead and provide something for the city that will be aesthetically pleasing, and I think we're all in agreement with that. We're all in the same accord. However, to apply an overlay without respect to zoning and without giving certain exceptions to industrial-based properties, we feel puts a hardship on the site. You've heard them speak before. We want to put up a very nice building. We've got a dealership that is in the works to go in. It's a beautiful building. However, according to this overlay, it would not be allowed. We just respectfully request your consideration to at least amend the language to allow for certain materials to be used. You've seen the pictures there before you this evening. And it doesn't have to change the intention of the overlay. It would go right along with providing a very nice, aesthetically pleasing building along the interstate frontage, but yet would allow for businesses to come in and construct nice buildings that aren't just necessarily brick or stone. So with that, we do thank you for your time and request that you would at least consider some type of window to allow for buildings other than just brick or stone. Thank you.
Jason Connelly.
Good evening. My name is Jason Connelly. I reside at 1219 Highland Hills Drive. Mr. Vice Mayor, board members, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight. I'm here to speak with you tonight concerning Ordinance 2010-06. I don't believe that this ordinance, as written, is a good amendment for the current zoning ordinance. The setback distance recommendation approved by the Planning Commission should be approved by this board and amend this ordinance. The recommendation amendment would then make the ordinance 2010-06 whole and be a positive step forward for our city. The past few weeks, I've heard the legal phrase exclusionary land use provision many times. This is an opinion of a few that the distances will exclude a landowner from changing their land use to a quarry due to the close proximity of residential properties. This could pull the city into future legal matters. That may be true, but a group of residential property owners could just as well pull the city into the same legal type matter. This is not a threat, but anyone at any time could sue this city for a much lesser issue. The city's attorney, Mr. Evan Cope, has given this board a good opinion on this matter. Mr. Cope has stated, and I quote, "It's a balancing act in terms of what you want to allow and don't want to allow," end quote. He also goes on to say, and I quote, "Maybe the balance you want to strike is coming up with some reasonable distance requirement that you can put back into the ordinance, but that would not make it an exclusionary provision," end quote. So since the distance provision was taken out, some in this room honestly believe that 2,000 feet is too heavy of a distance restriction for a rock quarry. Just as a comparison, the town of Smyrna's zoning ordinance states that a rock quarry cannot be closer than 2 miles from a school, church, or residential property. So again, some in this room believe that 2,000 feet is too much of a restriction. The vote on this ordinance and the recommendation tonight is the simplest vote that you'll have tonight. You just have to choose who you want to support. Do you want to support a single property owner that would be allowed to put a rock quarry right up next to a residential property less than 2,000 feet away, or do you want to stand beside the 28,000 citizens of Laverne and protect us? Being afraid of a future lawsuit is no reason to not protect the citizens of Laverne. Vice Mayor and board members, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you.
We'll start the regular meeting at 7:05. It being 6:35, we'll call this public hearing to order. We have two items of business for public hearing tonight. One being Ordinance 2010-07, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map by adding the new Walden Road, Murfreesboro Road Streetscape District. Open it up for anyone to come forward to speak for or against. Please state your name and address. Podium is open. Again, the podium is open for anyone to speak for or against Ordinance 2010-07. Seeing no one come forward, we'll move to the second item, which will be Ordinance 2010-08, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map by adding the new South Walden Road Overlay District. Podium is open for anyone who wants to come forward to speak for or against.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and fellow Aldermen members. My name is Roy Dale. I reside at 516 Heather Place, Nashville, Tennessee. I'm a civil engineer, and I'm actually a former elected representative just like yourself. I represented about 20,000 people in Davidson County, so I appreciate what you do in your position. I know that you love the City of Laverne. I know that's why you're here. The overlay that you propose surely will, over time, make a difference for the city. However, this overlay can only be as good as the time, effort, and input that's gone into it. And I know that you've worked on this for 18 months. So there's no doubt that the time and effort has been there. We have only known, I say we, I represent Mike Nacarado on the Nacarado property. It's industrially zoned property on the south side of the interstate. Our client's only known about this property for 6 weeks. So he has not been able to give you a whole lot of input, although you've worked on this for 18 months. As I have approached you about my concerns individually, and the impact that this has on the industrial property with respect to building materials, I've unanimously been told that you've been working on this a long time and everything will be okay, that the Planning Commission will be sensitive to our concerns. However, the most recent revision to the overlay document specifically states that there can be no variances for certain materials, which could include architectural metal or tilt-up concrete panels along the front of the building. So as it stands now, it appears that there's no flexibility and everything won't really be okay. I've handed out 20 photographs of buildings that can be constructed on industrial zone properties. Based upon the proposed overlay, if you see even one of those buildings that you like, it could not be approved, because all of those buildings either have architectural panels, metal panels, tilt-up concrete, whatever. All of Tech Park, the existing industrial park on the south side of the interstate adjacent to this site, none of those would meet your overlay requirements based upon industrial and based upon it being industrial and in your overlay. It's understandable that having worked on this for 18 months, you might have a tendency not to want to consider any modifications, and I understand that. But again, I would ask that we not be penalized because we've only known about this for 6 weeks. We would ask for a simple modification that I think that you can easily move that will help us and provides you flexibility as far as these buildings are concerned. And what I would ask you to do is on the sections of your ordinance that talk about exterior or the sections of the ordinance that talks about a variance, that you simply include with the exception of industrial zone property. And in essence, what that will do is it will allow the Planning Commission or the Board of Zoning Appeals, when they look at a building to be placed on industrial property, if it has a tilt-up panel on the front, if it has architectural metal on the front, or whatever, that those could be approved if they have some type of extraordinary architectural feature, which I think that you'll find is going to be the case with these large industrial buildings. I know that you've been hesitant again to make any changes to the overlay because you've been concerned about the effects it might have on the other parts of your overlay district. But the industrial property, for instance, the Nacarado property represents 1% of your overlay. If you add all the industrial properties within your overlay, that's only 5%. So if you add the ability for materials to be varied under industrial property through the Planning Commission or through the Board of Zoning Appeals, it might conceivably have an impact on only 5% of your overlay. Everything else would be perfectly intact. So again, I appreciate everything that you've done. I understand what you're doing. You're representing your constituents. You're trying to create a better front for the city. But I would ask for you to be sensitive to that an industrial building is a little bit different than a residential building or a commercial building. And I think that that's probably your main focus here. And to more or less exclude all these materials as being prohibited on an industrial zone property is probably not going to serve the best interests of the city, because if someone comes to town that you want, let's say Coca-Cola for instance, and they want to put some metal panel on the building that says Coca-Cola or whatever, if there's some feature that's common with all the structures that they build universally, you simply can't even allow them to build there based upon the fact you've offered them no relief through a variance or appeal to the Planning Commission. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward to speak? You may.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. I'm Mike Nacarado. I preside at 2435 Hidden River in Franklin. And I just wanted to add to what Roy said. When we started this project, we had talked with the city, and we were here about 8 or 9 months ago when we were talking about our temporary lot that's now on I-24. And you know, I think we had a good understanding of what we were going to do, and I think we've carried that out, and we've worked with integrity, and all of the excavating we've done has been done properly and in order. And you know, we want a nice place too. We want a very nice place. We don't want just the bare minimum. We want something over and above the bare minimum. And it's unfortunate that the way that this bill is structured, we couldn't even put up what we selected as our very #1 primary building material, which was tilt-up that's precast. When you look at it, it comes from the factory. It's already colored. The finish on it lasts for 20 years. And we have a drawing. We actually have a big meeting tomorrow with about 20 people in it to be coming back to you to pull building permits. It's got a lot of glass in it. It's just a very beautiful building. And to think that something like that won't even be considered, that it has to be brick and only brick, to me just seems a little bit confining. So I'm just going to ask, as Roy did, that maybe you take a look at that again, and maybe there's a way to have what's done still fall under, that you don't just completely rule out everything but brick, but you'll allow some other materials to at least be reviewed by some sort of architectural committee or building, whatever it is. I don't know. I'm not a public official, so I don't know all those things, and I apologize for that. But you know, the pictures we've handed out, they are nice pictures. They're nice buildings. And, you know, just for the business part of this, I really think it would be in the best interest of Laverne to be able to have some of these good people who would bring a good tax base to the city. And honestly, they're not going to say, okay, we'll spend another $500,000 on this building so that it's brick. They're going to go with their corporate look, and their corporate look is going to be something that's probably a decorative metal or a tilt-up. So anyway, appreciate your time.
Anyone else? The podium's still open for you to come forward to speak against or for 2010-08. Seeing none, we'll close this public hearing. It being 7:09, we'll call this meeting to order. The mayor is absent tonight. He is a little bit under the weather. Our prayer will be by Alderman Green, and our pledge of allegiance will be by Alderman Walden.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the blessings you've given each and every one of us. And dear Lord, we just thank you that we made it through with not as much as it could have been. We thank you that tornadoes didn't land here. And dear God, we just pray for the ones that are flooded, the ones that have lost their homes. They've lost things that can't be replaced. They've lost everything, and they feel so down and out. But dear God, help them to know that you're still in charge and that all of us are willing to do and help whatever we can do to help. And dear Lord, we pray for our troops. We pray for people in other cities that have gone through things bad, and we pray for the poor mother that's still looking for her son today. And dear God, we know that it's all in your hands and that you will take care of it. And Lord, we just thank you for this city. We thank you for everybody that lives here, for all the community that has come together and offered their help. We've had so many people that have just walked in and said, can I please help clean up or whatever. We thank you for that. And dear Lord, we thank you again for all of our blessings, and we pray as we make our decisions tonight. We can't always please everybody, but Lord, we do try. We try to do the best we can for the people in the city. And we ask your blessings on this meeting tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You have the minutes before you from our April 6th meeting, public hearing and regular meeting. I'd like to get a motion to accept.
So moved.
We have a motion, and here's a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Department reports, fire department.
Mayor, Alderman, for the month of April 2010, we had a total of 67 calls, consisted of 5 structure fires, 13 fire alarms, 3 vehicle fires, 2 grass fires, 1 hazardous material call, 20 motor vehicle accidents, 7 medical calls, 5 emergency miscellaneous calls, and 11 non-emergency miscellaneous calls. For the month of April 2010, our total water consumption was 3,800 gallons, and our average response time was 2.8 minutes. Any questions?
Any questions for your fire chief? Thank you, Ricky.
Thank you.
Police Department?
Vice Mayor, Alderman, for the month of April, we entered 2,864 calls on 69 crashes, 173 alarms, 93 ambulance calls, motorist assist was 61, 33 domestics, burglaries were at 17, thefts at 50, total arrests was 157, 6 of those being DUI, 50 for driver's license violation, and 24 drug arrests. There was a total of 856 citations. We deposited $67,331. And tonight we have our reserves that's here that we got sworn in, I think, 2 weeks ago. And I'd like to introduce those to the board. First of all, Sergeant John Boone. He's been with the department for about, since 2007, he's been with the reserves here in Laverne. We appreciate his help, and he's going to help us with setting up the times and stuff that the reserves will be working for us. The reserves has to put in 20 hours of time with us a month, and they can put any more than that they want to, but it's labor of helping us, and they will be riding with another officer and assisting us with that. Also, Reserve Corporal Mark Crawford, he's also been with the department since 2007, and he'll be doing the same duties that Sergeant Boone has done. They've been a great help to the police department and working with our other officers. I'm going to let the others introduce themselves, because I don't want to mess up on their names since they're new, and I would do that, so I'll have them one at a time to please introduce themselves.
Reserve Officer Matt Bracker. Reserve Officer Cody Brennan. Reserve Officer Owen Ward. Reserve Officer Travis Wilson.
Reserve Officer Lee Parker.
Reserve Officer Scott Hutchins.
I do say they're reserve officers, but from now on, we'll be recognizing you as officers, not reserve officers. We appreciate your help and appreciate what you do and what you'll do for us. Also, I'd like to make the board aware, this afternoon, we made an arrest on federal indictments of a subject that has brought over $250,000 into our city of counterfeit money and counterfeit money orders. They was arrested without incident this afternoon, and he is on his way to jail at this time. He faces federal charges, about 6 counts. So I just wanted to inform you of that.
Any questions of the chief?
And I want the citizens to know these guys are volunteering. So we're very, very, very fortunate to have you, and I just want to personally say thank you for donating your time to this city, and you're deserving of this.
Now, quickly also, we've had reserve before, and sometimes it didn't work out too well, and we buy equipment and stuff for them, and it doesn't work out. Each one of these officers that's before you has bought all their own equipment. They're putting on their own time. It didn't cost us anything except training. They have completed their 80 hours of training, and any test or anything that they had to do, they have completed that, and they're ready to go to work. So we appreciate them again. Thank you.
Again, thank you for stepping forward and serving this community. We appreciate it.
Also, with the rest of my department, I know they worked hard out here this weekend in the floods and stuff and went through a lot of stuff, and I know that the captain, along with others, Sergeant Goins and stuff, has been working really hard. Sergeant Sloan, really hard on getting the numbers together on what we've lost and the expense that it's cost us through this flooding and gathering the information, and they've done a really, really good job for the city, and I want to say thank you to them.
Thank you. Codes.
Vice Mayor, Alderman, for the month of April 2010, the Codes Department issued 4 single-family dwelling permits, 2 commercial permits, 4 miscellaneous permits, 3 sign permits, 6 other permits, 2 mobile home permits. Total number of permits issued for the month was 21. Number of calls for the month, 2 for tall grass, 10 for junk cars and yards, 48 for trash and yards, and 43 other. Impact fees for the month, $3,536 for road, $1,244 for park, $448 for police, Monthly revenue with impact fees was $9,245. Total number of single-family permits issued year-to-date is 24. Total number of single-family permits issued same time period 2009 was 11. Total number of all permits this year-to-date is 80.
Any questions for Kyle?
I got one question. Davidson County, the mayor, asked the Davidson County to waiver the fees, permit fees on victims of the home repairs. Can we check into that also?
We can definitely check into that.
I think that'd be the least that we can do to help the people.
Right.
Most of them, I don't think, had flood insurance, so if we can help them that way, I think that might be good.
Yeah, we
Davidson County is already in the process of doing that.
we can look into that.
Thank you, Council.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone here from Parks and Rec? You have a report here in the packet. Finance, Phyllis.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor and Aldermen. Tonight's financial report represents year-to-date numbers through March the 31st. For the general fund, revenues have exceeded expenses by $606,000. Local sales tax, we're at approximately $2.2 million year-to-date. That's about $84,000 under budget and about $183,000 under compared to prior year. State street aid revenues have exceeded expenses by $91,000. Stormwater revenues have exceeded expenses by $74,000. In the water and sewer fund, the expenses have exceeded the revenues by $1.1 million. On the second page is the balances in our various bank accounts. And on the third page is a comparison to prior year. General fund is $186,000 unfavorable to prior year. And the water and sewer fund is $514,000 unfavorable compared to prior year.
Any questions for Phyllis? Oh, thank you. I think at this point I'll add FEMA will be in Rutherford County tentatively on Monday, and we need all expenses it's incurred so far to be turned in to Phyllis by tomorrow. It close by the department heads if possible. And expenses should include any of the time associated with flood activities up and through and including, if possible, May 7th. Turn in all other expenses such as purchases, estimates of items to be purchased, costs of items taken out of inventory, and vehicles used anywhere for information. Those type of things, anything that any department within the city used in this flood needs to be accounted for and needs to be turned into Phyllis. Okay. Library.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and Aldermen. The report for the library for April 2010. We checked out 10,113 items last month, which was down slightly from the previous year. 10,404 patrons visited the library with an average per day of 400 people. We issued 36 new juvenile cards and 151 new adult cards last month. We ran 42 programs in April with a total attendance of 878 people. And computer users were higher than the previous year with 3,371 users last month. Seems like most of our big events last month were scheduled to coincide with the bad weather. Our book sale was on the 24th, the day of the first big rainstorm, but we did pretty well. People donated about $900 to us that day, so we want to thank everybody who came out. Had the Dangerous Book for Boys treasure hunt this past Saturday, and 8 children showed up and did find the treasure, so we also want to thank everybody who showed up and participated in that. Our computer classes went very well last month, and we are planning to have some more coming in the future months, so please look out for those. And we're using May to prepare for summer reading. Signups will start on June 1st, and we have programs for the whole family this year. Are there any questions for me?
Any questions for the library? Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
Water treatment plant.
Evening, Vice Mayor, Alderman. I apologize for the informality here, but it's not over till the job's done. We have is our monthly report for March of this year compared to the prior year at the same time. And it's basically the compares our flows and testing parameters. Everything's in our normal range. Chemical usages is ongoing. We try to consolidate and economize on them best we can. Our maintenance for the month of March was $5,076. Brings our contract year to a little over 6,200. Our cross-connection program's still going well. Inspections that were collected were a little over $2,300 for the month. And just a informative thing, everything at the water plant is well. Water is fine. We never were compromised in the system during the flood. It stayed pressured up. We've had minor problems which are escalating into a little bit more with telemetry, nothing with treatment process. And appreciate the citizens. Looks like everybody's on to conserve. We really had to cut back production. I guess everybody's just doing their part in conserving these days. All is well.
Any questions for Thomas?
We want to thank Tom. He's been having to row in a boat, well, every 2 hours for the last 2 days.
Yeah, we kind of conservatively on that now.
Check on the water intakes.
Yeah.
Was you personally doing that, Thomas?
No, I get the pictures after,
delegated
so
that out.
I'm good.
I
Yeah.
understand.
They bring a camera with
We
them.
appreciate it nonetheless.
What I'm hearing on television, the citizens don't need to boil the water.
No.
What about the water supply?
Water supplies, the lake is very full. We have a really good supply on reserve.
We ain't no short of water.
No.
And the citizens don't need to boil the water? Or?
Not at all. No, the water's fine. We test it daily, in the plant, out in the system. Everything is
So
fine.
how many gallons are we able to pump per day?
We're able to pump about 6 million. Right now, we've cut it down to about 2.5. Our
So
normal,
if somebody want to wash the cars, fill the swimming pool, that's fine.
right. Yeah, we don't encourage that because we're just seeing if our neighbors need water, we want to have everything in working order for that we can supply other systems.
That's right. We wouldn't encourage that at the moment.
No.
For filling pools, just in case our neighbors need some water.
Conserve it is the best thing. Water's a limited source.
Thomas, you indicated, and I know we've talked about this in other meetings, but you have done some field tests on water just to test in the field to make sure there's no compromise within our distribution system as well, correct?
Yeah, every day of the week we test it. And it's tested all good.
Thank you, sir. I assume that Guy thinks he's next since he's walking up.
Vice Mayor, members of the board, we've been very proactive with the chipper program. We received 69 calls, but we've picked up 285 locations. We did quite a bit of patching and paving last month, mainly in the water's edge development. I think we've pretty much got that based in. We got a couple more patches out there, and we'll be working with Kyle and Mark to hopefully overlay that development. A lot of weed spraying and mowing going on last month. It's that time of year. The water and sewer crews, the pump stations, did our spring cleaning, cutting back the weeds and weed spraying those areas. Vehicle maintenance. We completed the MARTA program, the inspection program, and all of our vehicles have passed, and we've submitted that report back to the state. And I could go ahead and give you May's report because I know what we're going to be doing all month. That's all I have.
Questions for Guy?
I got one. Can you check on if the city can do it, roadside pickup for some of these flood victims is having to tear out? I'm hearing a lot of them say that they don't have no flood insurance and that they don't know what they're going to do with the stuff they tear out.
We're doing that. We're doing that. We've probably picked up 200 tons of stuff.
So what they need to do is put it out there on the right of way and call Public Works.
Yes.
Yeah, I would encourage, if you have a means to get it, we're so swamped with Public Works with road repairs, we would encourage anyone that has a vehicle or a truck that can haul it. We do have a facility at Old Nashville Highway that they can take that debris. If for some reason they know that they can't, just set it out they don't have to call it into Public Works. They're making rounds, and we'll be picking that up.
There's about 6 dumpsters up there now, and the people can take their stuff there, and it's at no cost.
But the people that don't have no way to get it up there,
We have assisted them, yes.
is any stipulation, is it something that don't need to be too big, or a size?
No, as long as it's not hazardous waste.
Okay. But there ain't no size limitation?
No.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Guy. We're going to get another report. Mr. Steve Mayer from Emergency Management will he fill this body in where some of us know where we're at, but Steve's going to fill us in. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the board, let me start out by showing my appreciation for being invited here to participate as a representative of county government in your recovery and response. It's an emergency. It's hit a lot of people very hard. Paraphrasing the words of the National Weather Service director, who said this isn't a 500-year flood, it's not a 1,000-year flood, it's off his charts. They're still trying to measure the impact. As you can see from the TV, there's been a presidential declaration of disaster. The governor declared 52 of 95 counties, of which we're one of. So far, about 21, about half that number have made presidential declaration. It seems like they're moving from west to east. It's very likely that we'll fall into that category. Right now, since Saturday about 2 o'clock when the storms hit, the waters continue to flow, and they raised up pretty high. You were inundated in many areas that have never seen water before. I wanted to pass along a commendation, if I can. I've done a lot of these, and you've got a very strong, tightly knit, great group of responders, both volunteers and paid, that have come together and worked very hard on this effort. You should be very proud of them. I encourage everybody to slap them on the back and give them a well done. They're very prepared, very responsive, and as a result, no serious injuries or deaths occurred. Very unusual. Right now, you're in the recovery phase. You have proceeded from the rescue phase, made sure everybody was taken care of, provided shelter, food, clothing. Now you're counting up the costs, adding up the numbers, and trying to be prepared to present a solid case to the FEMA people when they come next week. I think you're in pretty good shape. I think people are working together. There's a helpline for folks that have not maybe been overlooked on an assessment. We've sent people out into the field to look at damages, to report those numbers up to the county and to the state. Tried to get a picture on how hard they were hit. As several people have pointed out, very few people in the city and in the county have flood insurance. Most of the damages that may be covered later are uninsured losses. Right now, the Small Business Administration has engaged, and that will help businesses with low-interest loans. So those are available. There's the FEMA helpline, Small Business Administration as well, and also you have the city helpline of 355-3000. And that can be used to call in for additional help, and be patient with that because there are it's being monitored in 2 different places, and folks are spending more time out in the field than they are in the comfort of the homes. So if anybody has any questions, I understand you'd like me to stick around later, and I'd be glad to do that.
If there's any questions from this board here, you can ask. If there's any questions that the citizens that may be here tonight have, I'd ask them, if you stick around to ask.
Yes, sir, I'd be glad to. Anybody have any questions?
Comments from this board?
I just want to say, Steve has been by this city's side through all of it. I mean, through thick, through thin. We've pulled hair. We've had to walk out. And, I mean, he's never left us. And I personally just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I know you've been here for this city, and you've trained the majority of us. And your training, I think, went quite well.
It's nice to see it in action. Yes, ma'am.
And I just want to say thank you for staying with us.
Yes, ma'am.
Through thick and thin. And thank you.
So I'll be available, sir, for questions.
Okay, anything, Ms. Green? Mr. Walden? Okay. Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. Moving on to old business. Number 3, second reading, ordinance 2010-04, an ordinance to amend Article 5 of the Laverne zoning ordinance by adding a new section 5.056.1 for the Walden Road, Murfreesboro Road Streetscape District. Received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on February 23rd of 2010. This is not one of the items that we had a public hearing on. This is the ordinance that creates the ordinance itself. The following items later would be the zoning maps themselves. Make a motion we accept or pass on second reading ordinance 2010-04. We'll open it up for comments.
I think under the circumstances, since the mayor's not here, I think on old business number 3, deferring of the month, I think might be a good thing.
This creates the ordinance. This does not create the zoning map.
I think we just need to look at
We passed it on the
3,
first reading.
4, and probably 15. Get everybody, I know you worked on this for 18 months. And I've had the planning commission, but I think Alderman Moe and Alderman Green hadn't went through the time involved that we had. That's my.
Put your mic on, Dennis.
I got to do that. Okay. Yeah, it might help. And, I'd like to call a motion to.
We already have a motion on the floor. It's just a
Okay.
discussion.
Okay.
As I stated, we've got, this is the ordinance creation.
This is just the.
This is not,
This is not the one
this
with
is
the
not the
building
zoning map.
material.
This is not the zoning maps that we held the public hearing on earlier this evening.
I'll make the motion.
Have you make that in a second?
In a second.
We have a motion and a second by Ms. Green. All in favor of passing ordinance 2010-04, signify by saying aye.
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 No.
Roll call. Ms. Mosley.
Aye on this one.
No.
Aye.
Vote aye. That passes. Second reading, ordinance 2010-05. An ordinance to amend Article 5 of the Laverne zoning ordinance by adding a new section 5.0562 for the South Walden Road Overlay District. This also received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on February 23rd of 2010. This is one of the items that we had discussed, that was discussed by, specifically as it pertains to the Nakarata site. That's right, Grant. This is the one we were discussing, yes. Some of the concerns that they had raised, obviously are concerns. We want to hear that. We have made some changes. What you see in front of you, which will be on page 95, Matt, under number 6.
My computer's messing up big time.
Oh, I can't see mine.
Oh.
Yeah, they're going on small jump in.
Can we, the screens are small for them.
I can't even see it.
And I'll go over that if you're going to be looking at the large screen. In the red, that's some of the changes that was made from the first reading. In the red being, variances shall not be granted from the exterior requirements of the front of the structures or the sides of the structure having roadway frontage. In addition, variances shall not be granted to allow for exteriors utilizing prohibited materials. After discussions earlier this afternoon and talking with Grant and talking with Evan Cope, we've made another change which is not on the screen. That would have that verbiage, but the written last sentence would be except for those structures located in the city's industrial zones. That would allow the Planning Commission to grant, or excuse me, the Board of Zoning Appeals to grant variances for uses other than brick, tilt-up panels, architectural steel, and the like, only in the city's industrial zones. It's full at the discretion of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Now, granted, the Planning Commission did favor this. The Planning Commission talked about this for months as well. I think the Planning Commission also had a public hearing on this matter. So that's one of the things that we have added, which I think addresses concerns for them or anybody else that may be in an industrial zone.
Do you feel comfortable? I'm kind of like Dennis now. I did not realize. I thought that area was commercial. This is I-2s.
This could be, the way it's worded here, it could affect I-1, I-2, or I-3, any industrial zone in the city. It's not limited to just particular 1, 2, or 3.
Okay, so industrial zones.
Any industrial zones, the Board of Zoning Appeals would have the right to grant variance requests, where previously it did not allow that.
Did you ever discuss that in any capacity, Dennis, when y'all were in the Planning Commission?
I don't recall it, but like I say, we've had it for about a couple of months, and we discussed a lot of things.
I mean, I'm all about the city and cleaning it up and making it look nice. I looked at these pictures. I love some of these buildings here. I mean, those are classy buildings right here. And when you're talking about, commercial versus industrial, you're going to have larger buildings in industrial. Now, I would like to hold them to one or two of these pictures because I love these pictures. I mean, those are very nice buildings there. Especially, I would love to see some of these right in there and, on the front end there because there's going to be large buildings there.
As this is written, this would allow tilt-up panels. This would allow architectural steel, but it's at the discretion of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I mean, I don't want any kind of metals. I don't like.
That would be the architectural metals, but this would be at the discretion of the Board of Zoning Appeals, the way it is written with the new exception.
Because I know on these the tilt-up
panels.
I mean, there's one building I love.
And a lot of the buildings in industrial zones. Some of the other industrial sites along, for instance, there may be an area where the Board of Zoning Appeals may grant that variance. There also may be areas of town with some commercial right in the front that they may not want to grant that because of aesthetics, to keep the uniformity between the buildings. But I think this does address, in my opinion, and the Nakarado concerns anyhow, by allowing the Board of Zoning Appeals to give them a variance.
And there's only 3 pieces of industrial that are in these overlays.
Just a few parcels.
3 parcels.
Well, I don't know if it may be more than 3, but it's just a few.
I'm talking about on the frontage.
Have two, I think between two or three parcels there along the interstate frontage that's included. Now, along Walden Road, of course.
But that's commercial up front on Walden Road.
Yeah, the outbound Walden Road.
On Walden Road, those parcels out front are commercial, the lots behind it are industrial. That may be a good example where the Board of Zoning Appeals may not want to allow, use of tilt-up panels just because of close proximity to Walden Road and the commercial lots on the front side. But they may want to grant that for the site out off of New Paul Road. So my recommendation, and then I'll make that in the form of motion, is to pass Ordinance 2010-05, and if Grant feels the need to go back to Planning Commission with some other tweaking, to do that in some text amendments later on.
Are you comfortable with that with the planning commission?
Explain that again, Jerry.
The way it is written currently is, which what's on the screen, and we've added, except for those structures located in the city's industrial zones. What that does allow the Board of Zoning Appeals, it allows the landowner, property owner, or the applicant to file application with the variance, with the Board of Zoning Appeals, to ask for a variance to use materials other than what's required. And that does allow, not only they could grant them the authority to use tilt-up panels, they could allow them to use architectural steel. They could also allow them to not use underground utilities. The Planning Commission themselves can not require them to do the decorative type street lights, but that would be up to the Planning Commission. But the way we have it worded now does address the concerns with no window of opportunity to ask for that variance. This does allow that.
And allow the planning commission to tweak it if it needs to be tweaked.
No, this does not. If this is passed, this will be that. Now, if the Planning Commission desires to look at it once again, to maybe make some other tweaks, concerns, I'd recommend that be done and bring it back to maybe tweak this later on. I do recommend passage of this tonight on second reading. And I made that in the form of a motion. Any other discussion?
We are passing this on the recommendation that the Planning Commission can fix in there that the Board of Zoning and Appeals can allow a different variation.
No, this here as written, with the sentence that's been added, if this is passed, this would allow the applicant to file with the Board of Zoning Appeals to ask for that variance to use material other than what's required in that overlay district. So this is an opportunity for them, and therefore the Board of Zoning Appeals can decide if it's a good fit for that area or not. That does give the flexibility, which is what they were asking for.
So that's fine.
I just don't know if we need to send it back or not.
Why do we?
Well, we've sent this back and forth a couple different times. No, Planning Commission's looked at it a lot of different times. They recommended it as it was. I think this just gives them, and of course, currently the Board of Zoning Appeals is the Planning Commission. It just gives them some flexibility as well. So, you know, it does give them that flexibility. They recommended it as it was previously. So therefore, if we're wanting to add this variance, they're the ones that grant that variance. So if they're not comfortable with it, they won't do it anyhow.
Well, that's true. But this is giving.
It gives the Planning Commission or Board of Zoning Appeals some flexibility, where they wasn't asking for that flexibility under their recommendation.
And that's only in industrial.
Industrial zones only. It could be industrial 1, 2, or 3. Does not affect the commercial zones nor the R3 zone that falls within this overlay.
Okay, so they still,
They still have to comply, yes.
Okay. I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? We'll do a roll call. Ms. Mosley?
I'm just, since we've made this a big thing, are you just not, I'm not comfortable. We're rushing it with this one sentence. I feel would feel better, I think, if the Planning Commission, if we send it back to them just one more time. I'm kind of like, anytime we rush into anything, you know, I just, anytime we rush into anything, and you have spent, I know, months on this and have done a wonderful, wonderful job, and I applaud you for your efforts. I really do. But by us being uncomfortable and the mayor not being here, I want us to be 100% when that vote comes up, everybody, you don't have to do a roll call. I want it to be, yes, this is the way we want it, and
I'm not sure we're going to get that, to be quite honest with you.
I think we're there. I think we're almost there. I promise you. I think we are almost there. But I think one more trip to the Planning Commission, just because of what we're doing, I think this is a pretty big change. Even though it doesn't look like much, we're adding one sentence. But I would feel better if we just make one more trip, making sure, I think I'm comfortable with this, but I don't like to think. I like to say, by golly, this is the perfect decision.
I respect that, but I'll add that, you know, the planning commission did send it over without any window for them to grant any type of variance. We've added that option for them to do, and they didn't request that option.
Yeah.
We've allowed them to do that. So I think that if we send this back, all they're gonna do is say, yeah, we'll take that. And, because that may be the only thing they're tweaking, because that's the only thing we're looking at.
I guess what makes me a little uncomfortable is why didn't they think of that to begin with? You know,
We're just giving them that
and
additional
is there maybe
option.
something else we might want to add while we're there? I mean, we're only talking about one more month. And make sure there's not one or two more things we want to take from or add to. Because, I mean, it's there. It's just right there, you know. But, I mean, I just want to be sure. I just want to be sure that we've gotten everything on this. I want to make sure that we, you know, like I said, we picked out several things here that we really, really like in the industrial area of it.
Which could be allowed.
It could be, it
Which
can
could be allowed
with
as
this.
written right here before us, could be allowed by the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Ask you to remove your first and Ms. Green move a second, and we defer this a month. On this board here, I know Cena made some good points, and we can get more comfortable with it, and then next month, if we feel we need to go back to the planning commission, we can do it, but I think we're real close to it here.
If we defer this, we're not deferring it, we're sending it back to Planning Commission. We're not gonna put it out 2 or 3 more months. My question for Evan would be, Evan, if this does not pass and someone in this overlay district submits a plan prior to the passage of this, those could not be considered under the overlay. Is that?
Well, it really, that's a good question. There's a theory for city ordinance called the pending ordinance doctrine. And without going into a lot of detail, when you have a pending ordinance that's imminent in terms of being passed or potentially passed, it does put prospective landowners on notice that they may have to require that. But again, it's a gray area, so there's no guarantee. But to answer your question, Mr. Vice Mayor, you're absolutely right about that.
But now, they could have done that last week and didn't do it. I mean, they could have pulled a permit last week. I think they want to do it right, and I think we should do it right. I think we ought to look this thing over real good and have a month to defer it. Because a lot of this information that you wrote down, me and Cena and Ms. Green just heard about it tonight. And, you know, I'm not saying we're against it, but we just want a month to soak it in.
If it gives them a chance to go before the Board of Zoning and Appeals, and they have the choice to give them a variance as long as it's within what we've asked, I don't have a problem with it. But
I think, you know, I mean, if we're discussing this, how this one parcel affects it, you know, I think from the public hearing and the comments made, they wanted that opportunity to ask for that variance through the Board of Zoning Appeals and through the Planning Commission. This does allow that. This does allow those listed materials to be used with exception of the EFS, but it does allow the Planning Commission, which serves our Board of Zoning Appeals, the option to give a variance for some of those materials, such as tilt-in-place walls. This does allow it. So all we're giving, if the Planning Commission didn't ask for, we're giving them that opportunity to look at that. Where they didn't have it before, they didn't ask for it. We're saying, well, we'd like for you to do that, just in case there's something that may not fit in a certain area. This allows them that flexibility where before their hands were tied.
And that I respect, but I want to know why the Planning Commission chose not to do these type of buildings. See what I'm saying? I want to know why they didn't allow that.
Grant, do you know enough to speak on that, or?
Well, they originally, when we looked at this, it did allow for a variance procedure for that type of structure. And in this, one of the revisions that we looked at, it took away that variance allowance. And then this last revision places that variance back. So it's actually pretty much what was originally looked at by Planning Commission. Just it's been a long road.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. We're all confused. I mean, you're saying, you just said that this would have been allowed, but it wouldn't be allowed, so now it's back to not being allowed.
We looked at taking the variance procedure away at this Mayor and Alderman workshop last Thursday, and then now we're actually giving that back with the addition of this sentence. So, but just for industrial properties.
That's why I don't see that it's gonna hurt anything deferring this thing 1 month. 1 month, you know, like Cena says, we're getting reflecting, it's nothing that's gotta be done tonight. If they was gonna pull a permit, they could have done it last week. That's not an issue for our concern, but rushing
Now,
in.
that has nothing to do with my decision. My decision is to do what's right for the city, and I think this is wonderful. I think this is great, but we're right there, but we still got those
Well,
real
we're the
questions.
ones that pulled it out.
So,
Right?
Yeah, we are the ones that
We
pulled
are
it
the
out.
ones that pulled this out. It was in there from the planning commission. But I had not seen these pictures either.
The original
And the
one did
pictures
allow
are
for,
absolutely
the original one did
wonderful.
allow for a variance for these type of buildings. Then it was removed at workshop. Now it's been added back in. So what we're looking at is essentially the same as the planning commission sent over originally.
and that was,
Except we've added E for some of the materials, that was not in there.
but you see what I'm saying? Each time we're changing something. We're changing something. Let's get it perfect, and that final vote, it's perfect.
I don't have no problem with that.
You
All right,
see what I'm
that's fine. I'm tired of discussing this. Let's, if the body feels that we want to send it back, if you withdraw your second, I
will.
withdraw my motion, and we'll send it back. We're not deferring. We'll send it back to planning commission to look at. Or actually, can we defer this matter pending planning commission re-looking at it without going through the first and second reading again?
That is debatable. I would be afraid that if it goes back to planning commission and changes are made, that it'd have to start all over again for the first and second
Let
reading.
me ask you this here. If we make a motion to send this back to planning commission to look at this body's changes and let them send back recommendation, which would not necessarily change the intent, that would not require us to have first reading again.
That would be a better way to do it.
Let's do
Well,
that.
I'll be deferred, because you're not sure, Evan. Grant, you're not sure. We're not sure. Let's just defer it 1 month, and let's be sure.
Now, let me re-ask this one more time. Evan, if we make a motion, because we've done this previously, while we're considering second readings, we have done this. If we make a motion to send this back to planning commission for one more look prior to us considering the final second reading. That way, and long as they don't make a lot of changes that changes the intent of this ordinance,
Correct.
it's still standing.
Correct.
And that's basically what we were doing
Rather than a deferral.
Yeah.
I'll make that in the form of a motion. We send this back to planning commission to consider before our second reading next month.
Okay, and I'll second that.
I like that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No.
Roll call, Ms. Mosley.
Aye.
Mr. Walden. Ms. Green.
Aye.
Aye. Number 5, first reading. That is where we're at, right, Bruce?
Yeah.
Ordinance 2010-06, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by amending sections related to extraction, mining, quarrying activities, adding a special exception in the I-2 zoning district for uses not otherwise listed, adding a special exception in the I-3 zoning district for mining and quarrying activities, adding a special exception in the I-3 zoning district for extensive manufacturing of scrap operations, and amending section 5.054.6 regarding special provisions for mining and quarrying activities within an I-3 zoning district, received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on April 27, 2010.
Motion to approve ordinance as written with the setback variances that have been added.
We have a motion, we get a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I'd like to, I need to make a motion to suspend the rules to allow Mr. Mayor to come back forward to give us an update. He has an update that needs to be given to us. I got a motion to suspend the rules.
Second that.
We got a second. All those in favor of suspending rules?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor.
I felt it important, Vice Mayor and members of the board, to relate to you a phone call I just received. I apologize because I had assured you earlier that this would happen this morning, but Rutherford County has been added to the presidential declaration.
We've been added. Yay!
Thank you.
That's a good thing.
See, that is a good thing, and for anyone watching, what that does allow for our citizens to apply for financial assistance through
Yes, sir.
through FEMA for their uninsured losses.
Yes, sir.
I know that we do have something running that was received by the SBA earlier today. We will make those changes to Channel 3 indicating that Rutherford County has been listed and to contact FEMA for those
Yes.
procedures.
And this also adds the public assistance of the roads and bridges. And it means that FEMA will be in town.
Okay,
All right, yay. I apologize.
That is great news for our folks. That was one of our concerns is, and I know that I had been talking with the governor's office and Congressman Gordon's office trying to make sure that politically we could do all we could, because, we had concerns of us not being considered because maybe the other rest of parts of the county did not get the effect we had. And it's hard to explain how someone across an imaginary line, a county line, can get
That's right.
assistance in 100 yards away you cannot. So that is great news. Thank you for bringing that
And
back
thank you
to
for the suspension of the rules for the moment, for the announcement.
Thank you. Those long hours paid off, guys.
Moving on, we'll go to number 6. Second reading ordinance 2010-07, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map by adding the new Walden Road, Murfreesboro Road Streetscape District. Received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on March 30th, 2010. This creates the zoning map for the overlay district. Is there any reason that we want to not pass this overlay district? This does not consider materials. This is actually only the district itself.
I think we're all in agreement on this one.
Okay. All right, make a motion, we pass ordinance 2010-07 on second and final reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes. Number 7, second reading ordinance 2010-08, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map by adding the new the new South Walden Road overlay district. Received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on March 30th, 2010. This is same as the 07 and just creates it on South Walden. Need a motion to pass this on final second reading.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Have a second. All those in favor signify.
Aye.
Aye.
Passes. The consent agenda. Bruce, has anything been added or removed from the consent agenda concerning any of these items?
No, sir.
We discussed this at the workshop. Although, I need a motion to pass the consent agenda.
Vice Mayor, I make a motion to approve with the addition that on the roadblock, Box 100 is asking to have the roadblock at Madison Square and Murfreesboro Road. We feel that's a little bit safer area.
Bruce, can we make that change to that? Do we need to remove that and do it as a second item?
I think if you built it into the motion, I think it would be okay.
Okay, you make that in form of a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll second.
We have a motion that has made a text change with the location of a roadblock. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes. Under new business number 9, first reading ordinance 2010-09, an ordinance of the City of Laverne to establish a property tax rate for 2010. This will keep our tax rate at the current 50 cents per $100 assessed value. No change.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Here a second.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passing on first reading. I'd like to thank Finance and all department heads for working hard to get a balanced budget to us. And in these economic times, and it's tough. That, but I think that it showed that our department heads have stepped up and actually tightened their belts, just like the people out in the community haven't tightened theirs. Appreciate you doing that. Number 10, first reading ordinance 2010-10, an ordinance of the City of Laverne, Tennessee, adopting the annual budget for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2010 through June 30, 2011. This adopts the budget. Need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion, do we need a second? I'll make a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Number 11, motion to approve an engineering agreement for the design of the Cheney Road sidewalk project.
Yes. Motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Number 12, motion to approve or reject an offer from Tower Co. for perpetual easement for a cell tower located at the water treatment plant. This is something we receive from them on a quarterly or semi-annually basis, wanting us to let them pay us some money up front, basically to have use of that. And I'll make a motion to reject an offer from Tower Co.
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of rejecting the offer?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 13, motion to approve an agreement with the Fox Collection Center to provide collection services for the City of Laverne delinquent accounts. We talked about this at workshop. We've been having issues with the previous company making collection in their efforts to do so.
I'll make the motion that we go with Fox Collection Center.
Evan, you have reviewed the
Yes, sir.
the agreement?
Yes, sir, I have.
Everything's in line?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion. Need a second?
Second.
Have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve a memorandum of understanding between the City of Laverne and Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. This is for the easement for drainage. Is that? No, excuse me. This is yours, Chief.
It's just an agreement that in case something happens in our jurisdiction, that we have to be the lead agency on it. If there's any boating-related incidents that we have to cite, we have to do it by their regulations, and we only can do it by members that's commissioned through their agency.
All right. We need a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
I'll make the motion. Need a second.
Did you?
Oh.
I just made the motion.
Oh, you made a motion? I didn't hear you.
Okay.
We have a motion. Need a second.
Who'd you get, Bruce?
You got Miss Green.
I got Miss Green.
Got Miss Green.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 15, Resolution 2010-08, a resolution to authorize the police chief to negotiate and execute the donation of a 2000 Ford Crown Victoria to the city of Eagleville.
We have I had spoken with Mayor Toombs from Eagleville, and they were talking about equipment that they might need to get their police department reinstated. They have voted to reinstate their police department. I think they've already hired a police officer there. They're in dire need of some police equipment, in which we have this 2000 Ford Crown Vic and some related attached equipment with it. We'd like to see them to use to better serve the area down there of Eagleville and for their police officer to use.
Now, this vehicle does have some equipment that they can also utilize, correct?
Yes, sir. We're going to leave anything that's attached except for the 800 the new radio. The old radio will stay with, the new one will come out.
But the old VHS video and stuff that they can utilize for
Yes,
stops.
sir.
So I think anything we can help our neighbor, and the mayor from Eagleville is here tonight. We're glad to have you, sir. and I think it's good that we can,
Yes.
we've got the ability to actually help one of our neighbors. Make a motion, we pass 2010-08.
I'll second. I'll
Okay.
second.
Very good. We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Chief, if you'll work with Evan to get up and make sure that all the legal documents as far as transfer and liability and stuff.
Yes, sir. We've already discussed them, and I think he's ready to draw that up,
Okay.
agreement up.
Thank you. Number 16, motion to approve a memorandum of agreement between Gary Dooley and the City of Laverne. Mark, would you speak to this, please, sir?
As you can see, the mediation occurred on April the 19th. Both sides were present. In the mediator's name was Tracy Kinslow. At that time, a agreement was reached. The details are in front of you here. Both sides agreed to the terms that you see and were signed off on, but of course it must be voted by this board to approve that.
This settles this case completely, correct?
It's
Yes,
done.
this is a EEOC complaint, and this will keep it from going to court.
Okay. Make a motion, we approve this agreement. I made the motion, we need a second to approve this agreement. This is just a little more than what the ELC had stated. In my opinion, and of course, I think everyone, maybe even legal department's opinion, this is in the best interest of the city because litigation defending this could substantially be greater than what we were looking at.
That's correct.
I don't like it, and I don't want to do it, but I will make a second because we've got to get it behind us.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Waiting, Mr. Walden.
No.
Roll call, Ms. Mosley.
We don't have a choice.
We
Aye.
don't. Aye.
Mr. Walden.
No.
Ms. Green.
Aye.
I vote aye. Settlement passes. Down to mayor and alderman comments. Ms. Mosley.
Are you sure you want me to go first?
Well, no, let's go last on Ms. Mosley. No, ma'am, go right ahead. They talk some Kleenex.
I'm sorry it's going to take a few minutes because I have a ton of people to thank. And if I get emotional, just ignore me. I'm sorry. Ricky, Stace, Sergeant Goins, Sergeant Sloan, all of the public works, police department, fire department, public works, Box 100, the volunteers. We've all become quite close. I think we've threatened to kill each other a couple of times. But these people have spent hours upon hours upon hours. And as you can see tonight, we just got the word. We've all been sweating peach seeds today, trying to get all the numbers in. And I cannot thank these guys and girls enough. I mean, you just had to be there and watch their faces as, you know, they were coming back in, soaking wet, getting dry clothes on, going back out. It was amazing to see this group work together. And, you know, somebody might call us a little redneck country, but you know what? Give me my redneck girls and guys right here in Laverne any day, and I'm so proud of everybody. I'll read this really quickly. I want everybody in this town to know who all has donated food, water, everything in just the last few days. It's Firehouse Subs in Smyrna, McDonald's, Lazy Pig, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Famous Dave's, Little Caesars, Krispy Kreme, Kroger's, Smith's, Food Lions, Merchandise Liquidators, CVS, Walgreens, Will Stands, Chick-fil-A, Hardee's, and the citizens of Laverne. I can't thank everybody enough for everything that they've done in the last few days, and the citizens all pitching in. The Civic Auditorium, if you need any assistance until the federal aid comes in now, the Civic Auditorium is set up. We have supplies, we have clothing, we have access, we have several churches, Laverne Methodist, St. Mark's, and Trinity Methodist churches. We have phone numbers. They're wanting to come in as their mission to help go into these houses, rebuild, whatever. We've got groups that are wanting to come in and help clean. So please call or come by the Civic Auditorium to get some of this information. We've got dumpsters at 664 Old Nashville Highway. That is easy towing, if that makes it, right there behind Lowe's. You can take your materials there, but please, no everyday trash. This must be flood items, mattresses, wet carpets, furniture, anything of, no, we cannot handle any toxic, no paints, no nothing like that. So, but there is numbers out there. If you need help, please come to these areas and we are there to help you. And thanks again for all of our employees. They deserve a huge round of applause. I think I hit everything without crying this time.
Mr. Walden.
I want to wish everybody, all the mothers, a happy Mother's Day Sunday, May the 9th. Recalling on the number is 355-3000. The gentleman said that the government aid, somebody needs government aid, call 355-3000. And that's it.
No, well, Ms. Mosley said it all, but I would like to say thank you to everyone that worked so hard, and everything seemed to go off just really, really great. So, and there are lots of people still calling in saying they do want to help. So, and they, you know, groceries and things. I have a granddaughter that lives in Nashville, and she's just really, she has a little boy, and she's taken part of her money, her grocery money, and she's bought some groceries. And I thought, you know, even the young people, their hearts are really big. So I think it's great. And it's at a time like this when we all do have to take care of each other. So I'd like to say thank you to everyone too.
All right. Again, as I said, I think I'm really proud of our employees in every department that have stepped up. And Chief, can you give me a minute? Sure. Thank you. It's you know, Steve and Captain has done a tremendous job working from IC, and you know, you prepare for these things, and then you see them executed, and of course, from my eyes, it's went very well. And of course, after it's all said and done, we'll look at it and see what may have could have been done a little differently. But you know, our toughest days are still ahead with this recovery. You know, I think I was blessed, was not affected, at least not at my home. But I think that there's some challenging days ahead for folks, but this FEMA announcement does make it a lot easier, but as they're displaced.
The reason the redneck joke, we had somebody we wouldn't let go through the water, and they called us a bunch of rednecks. So that's why we went.
Yes, and a very, very good point. Let's still make, I know we're out doing some pumping of some waters. There's still some pooled waters around the city. Please stay out of the water. Do not get in the water. That water is contaminated. It does have sewer and fuel in it, and it's not for swimming. And so please stay out of the water, because there is a health hazard there. Okay. Chief, you wanted to say something. It says Mayor Alderman comments, but you go right ahead.
I'd just like to thank you for, the vice mayor was out there. I seen him almost waist deep in water trying to help people out and stuff, and I want to thank him. The mayor was out. I seen him was out here helping us all the time, but to see the city officials come out and help us out in time of need, I appreciate that. We We just tried out a new radio system. We only had it working just almost a week. We had all those different channels to operate off of, and it worked out great having the new radio system. And Ricky McCormick sitting over here, if it wasn't for him, I don't think we'd ever got this radio system going. But I think he's been the backbone for installing all this, getting it going, and I want to say a special thanks to him for that. Appreciate it.
This is the mayor. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can you hang on just a second? Any other comments? Mayor, we're just fixing to adjourn the meeting, so give me just a second. It already has been. Okay, it already has been. Yes. All right, thanks. Thank you, sir. All right, thank you.
Did he think we couldn't do this without him?
So you were? Anything else? This meeting's adjourned.